In addition to other mitigations, face masks are required to be worn appropriately at all times in all school district facilities. If mitigation protocols, including the correct use of masks, are not followed, the meeting may recess and continue in a virtual format. The meeting can be viewed live, whether in person or virtual. So at this time, I would ask you to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Anita, if you would do the roll call, please.
Chris Lau.
Here.
Rebecca Reber.
Here.
Brian Wopat.
Here.
Emily Zach.
Here.
Jennifer Deek. Here. Gary Dunlap.
Here.
Cheryl Hancock.
Here.
And I am here.
Okay, with 7 of the 7 school board members present, I would declare a quorum. Next item is the approval of the agenda. I would note that the agenda has been posted, distributed, and sent to the local media. With this in mind, are there any changes? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Anita, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Chris. A motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda as published. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Public participation. If anyone who wishes to address the board relative to any item at this time, we ask that they come forward and observe a 5-minute time limit per person. I will ask those to present to do so respectfully, respecting the rights of others and wishing others who wish to speak, by refraining from interrupting them. According to Board Policy 187, citizens are expected to use proper etiquette, decorum, and respect when addressing the board. Robert's Rules of Order will be followed. Participants are allowed to remove their masks while providing public participation. So the first person I would have come forward is Barb Lynch.
I need to say my address and everything?
No, just your name.
Okay, Barb Winch. Meeting after meeting, I have witnessed the board being belittled and threatened. Those who do it, deny it. 2 weeks ago, the community came forward and showed you how they really see you. The community supports you. I am here tonight because I am angry with the false information continually used as an attempt to discredit the board and those who support you. For example, 2 weeks ago, I was mistaken for an educator in the district and was called a child abuser, as was the board, regarding a common reward for food drives in the district. All one had to do was ask me my name or my profession, but that never happened. The board was told you did not deserve a meager $141 raise because you have not done your job in the last year during an unprecedented pandemic. The community surrounded you when it mattered and showed up to vote in favor of that raise. It was stated that the school district employees only received a 2.5% raise compared to your 5%, and that 2.5% was a total compensation, not a wage increase. That is also false. All one has to do is access the compensation plan documents on the district website to see that 2.5 is in fact their wage increase, and the additional benefits total thousands of dollars. I have to wonder, though. I wonder where those same people were during the election and adoption of Act 10 in Wisconsin 10 years ago, when those same employees were ripped of their union bargaining rights. I have a pretty good idea, because just 9 months ago, they were stating that our educators were not deserving of their full pay from our taxes, because during virtual learning, they were not seen teaching a full day. Did they ever bother to reach out to their children's teachers and ask them what it was like to teach virtually? Did they ever ask what the added preparation looked like? Did they ever ask about those teachers often seen in driveways, dropping off materials to their students, and the additional one-on-one learning that was taking place? All they had to do was ask. What truly infuriates me the most, though, is what has been lost in all of this. Our students. People stand up here week after week and tell you what their child thought of the virtual learning and what their child thought about wearing a mask. What about your neighbor's children? It's not just about us. It's about all of our students. Do you really want to know how the pandemic has affected the children in this district? ask them. If you don't want to ask, at least take the time to read this book, Living History, Holmen 8th grade students respond to 2020, and I want to read you the back of this book. From March of 2020 to March of 2021, the nation experienced unprecedented history in the making. The narratives in this collection are the experiences and viewpoints of students who were 12 to 14 during that year. Their memories provide a unique and often overlooked perspective of those events that can help us gain a deeper understanding of how 2020 affected our world at the time. These students tackled the resulting challenges, and their resilience will, in turn, shape our future. I read this. I read how their fear, anxiety, tragic family loss, boredom, anger, and hurt after they were sent home in March of 2020. It then turned to excitement, hope, confidence, and resilience upon their return to in-person learning. I am tired of assumptions and weak conspiracy theories aimed at attempting to spark outrage and further divide this community. All you have to do is ask, and you will find the truth, but only if you want to see it. So again, I'm here to thank the board for doing your research, following the studies and guidance to continue to do what is best for the students and employees of the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mr. Hammond.
My name is Mary, and I guess I'm still spinning a little bit from that annual board meeting. Probably because I feel like I witnessed some very, very shady action. And when I went to the online recording of that meeting, just to kind of see, did it back up what I thought I saw? It's funny, that meeting goes right until the treasurer, the financial report is done, and then poof, that's it. It didn't record anything else. Where is this public document recording? I mean, a person should be able to see the entire meeting. People that were at home, not able to attend, did see it. So, I mean, it had to have been recorded somewhere. So I guess I was kind of interested by that question. And then I was also kind of interested when someone came up and said that there was some leaked data that came out of the district office that was used and manipulated to help people to attend that meeting. And I don't know, maybe it was the people that helped vote the board a 5% increase. I mean, it's kind of called manipulation. The same board that approves the final judgment whether these people actually get a pay increase. I mean, sorry, this is looking pretty sketchy. I'm sure you'll have some feedback for me on that one. And then also at the last board meeting, I stood up and I shared with everyone something that happened to me and my family this last spring. And after I shared that story with everyone, it's funny. After that, I got a pretty quick response from social media from 2 individuals. And guess what? Face masks, another drawback to face masks. You don't recognize people, you don't identify people, you don't put 2 people together or say 2 people are different. So the community member that I thought was a teacher, who told me very adamantly she does not want to be identified as a teacher, not sure why. Sorry. I should say that a little bit nicer. I'm sorry that I confused you. She must have left, I don't know. She must have left.
You should be addressing the board.
So I apologize to her for confusing her. And then the teacher of the school district that, again, did not communicate to me in a professional manner. She chose a social media platform on a personal level. I apologize for confusing you as well. But so with that said, I am a little bit, I guess good news, bad news, a little bit relieved that this teacher in the school district was not acting maliciously based on discussion at the school board meeting the night before. Feel good about that. But then she went on to say how, she took no responsibility for what did happen. And then she threw the student team under the bus for what did happen. And then she went on to say, hey, I just pushed the email out. I didn't review it. I didn't critique it. I didn't help mentor these kids to maybe put out a better message that wouldn't.
Mary, I'm going to ask you to address policies and not individual situations or individuals.
Okay, so I'm concerned that our staff development with leadership skills that are mentoring our children are inadequate. Okay, does that meet your policies?
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on in the school district, other than it seems kind of shady, and people don't care for it. And I have to say that I did include the board and the district administrator on my email. The board president did respond back to me, and she said, you guys are not part of that decision-making. You're a third party. The administrator did also correspond with me and shared her thoughts, and I shared mine. And that teacher still did not follow the outlaid expectations of addressing a parental concern. And yeah, I guess bottom line is maybe you need to have staff do a little bit more development with leadership skills. Thank you.
So then I will move on to Christy Tweed.
Hi guys, good night or good evening. I wasn't going to address this, but I just have to. I think all 3 videos are on YouTube of the annual meeting. So I do know there's been some conspiracy theories about parts being cut out, having to move from this room to that area. And there was, I think the guy that was doing the taping or videotaping that night was new. So I do know a small chunk was cut out. It's no big conspiracy. I mean, if anything, I wanted to see that part too. It was a moment that we were quite proud of. So it wasn't something we wanted cut out either. So beyond that, I also want to address something that I made a mistake about at the annual meeting. I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong. And I did say that you guys had not received a raise in the last year. And I was incorrect. You did receive a $49 per person per year raise in 2020. So I was incorrect. But I did go back and look and see that you had not received a raise in 10 years. So in 10 years, you got a $49 raise and a $140 raise approximately, which is minute. I know that none of you are here for the money, and you put a lot of time and effort, especially the last 2 years. You've had to deal with a lot, and we appreciate it, and I'm super happy that we were able to vote you guys a raise, even if it is only symbolic. So thank you all for all the hard work you do, and we appreciate you, and I hope at the annual meeting you saw that. I know that you know that I started a Facebook group a while back. It started out about the mask mandate. We feel like we've kind of moved on from that. It's kind of a settled deal. So we're trying to find ways that we can help the district, the teachers, the students in other ways. We, through the grapevine, found out that the Holmen Middle School Student Council in the past had baked pies for the local community Thanksgiving dinner, and they weren't going to be able to do that this year for lack of funds. So a bunch of people from our group, which is the Holmen citizens that support the school board, collected a check for $375 to help them with their project. One of the other people on the group is also going to donate ingredients to help them to do that. And they told us that the excess funds will be used to make some meals for homeless. So I was going to give it to Dr. Muller, but I know that the student council rep is here. Can I give this to her?
Yep.
Caitlin, I know it's not a ton, but we hope,
It's so great. Thank you guys.
we hope it helps you out. And I would just say that as our group evolves, we just want the district and the teachers to know that we want to support you. So if there's other ways we can support, either through donation or through time or volunteering, feel free to reach out to us. We just want to support the district, the board, the students, the teachers. We just appreciate everyone and want to give back. So thank you.
Thank you. And that is the close of public participation for the evening. I would move on to recognition and thank you. Looks like Julie Holmen is coming forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So the first item under recognition and thank you is just a recap of our first Eat the Street for Education. This event replaced the previous Pork Feed for Education and is held on the same evening as the annual homecoming football game. This year it was October 15th. So we're just going to go through a quick little PowerPoint on what makes this possible, and then we have a couple donation checks tonight. So we had several local banks support this event, which is common. We often reach out to our local banks, and they've been very gracious to support us. So just going through this, if you were on social media or on our website, you would have seen some of these cascading advertising of the event up until October 15th on both supporters and food truck vendors that were present. So Ultra and Bluffview, thank you very much. Cooley Bank and Firefighters Credit Union and Verve Credit Union and Winona National Bank Financial are the banks that supported the event this year. And then, oops, let's just take a look at the picture quick. It's kind of cute if you weren't able to make it. And so then we also had several different food truck vendors. For dessert, we had Peace Oven Cakes. Fathead Steve's had a variety of menu items. Poppy's Taqueria, I don't actually know how to say that properly, and they're out of West Salem. We did start with anyone that was local, trying to give the business to our local vendors if they were interested. And then, as you know, we played West Salem, so we reached out to Poppy's in West Salem, trying to encourage more participation from the opponent and spectators. So also 5-Star Egg Roll was there. This was a flyer that went to the West Salem School District, also encouraging them to just their awareness of the event before the game if they wanted to participate. The Booster Club this year fed the football teams after the event. So in the past, when we did pork feed, we served pork meals to the teams, but since we were not preparing the food here locally, the Booster Club agreed to take on that, and they fed the teams for us, so thank you very much to the Booster Club. Another picture of the event. Pretty well attended. It was pretty fun. So this year's total for donations is $3,428, and the donations, as we have done in the past, we give the Holmen High School Athletics Department $250, and then the balance goes to our Holmen Area Foundation. So the total for the foundation is $3,178.15. Some more pictures before it got dark out, I guess. So Stacy Lockington was busy taking photos that evening, and somebody took one of her, I see. So.
Yeah.
And her son. So Aiden made it out with us that night. And so we're making plans to improve on the event for next year. Did a Plus Delta with leadership team based on the feedback that they were hearing and their own observations. So continue to make this an event into the future. So I am going to present the checks. sort of, the big checks. To Lisa Kind, representing the foundation, and Wayne Sackett, Marcus at a conference, I think. So Wayne is accepting it for the athletics. Thank you. Thanks so much. The real deal will be in the back.
Lose those.
So Lisa, before you leave, I just want to thank the foundation for all that they do to support the district, and it's an honor to be able to work with such a quality group. Thank you for all you do, and we know that it will come back to the school usually in big chunks. So thank you so much. Much appreciated.
And then I'll just wrap up our recognition and thank yous. This week, we want to recognize our school psychologists. It is National School Psychologist Week. So we want to recognize Bobby Jo Loomis, Corey Mueller, Laura Pernsteiner, Lisa Hesch, Nicole Callender, and Nikki Osgood. And just thank all of them for all they do for our students. They've been definitely very busy and been making quite a contributions to the success of our students as they returned post-pandemic. And then coming up this next week is American Education Week, and we are very excited. This was first introduced in December of 1921, and basically it's an opportunity to celebrate public education and honor individuals who are making a difference. Not only in our schools, but in our community. So this is a celebration of all of our staff within our district and all of those contributing to public education, which includes our school board, our leadership, and all other staff in the school district. So we just thank you for all the contributions to our school community. And one other item I just want to mention is you talk about community, and we were talking about community. As we headed down to the state tournament for volleyball, one of the things that WIAA was I don't know if I say proposing, but they had offered that whichever school district that was participating in the event at the state tournament that sold the most pre-sale tickets would receive $1,000 to their district. And what I will say is Holmen came out, and it was wonderful to see the community support and the support of our students. And our band was outstanding. They played the national anthem and just did a great post fifth quarter show outside after. And we really showed people up in Green Bay. They were saying, "Where's Holmen?" And now they know. So just thank you to everyone who came out and showed them what we're all about. So
Thank you. So next item, reports and discussion. Kim Edwards will share information about the Wisconsin Forward ACT Aspire results.
Yes, our state testing results are in. And just recently released. So you'll notice the updated section of student learning on a district dashboard does not contain the most updated results, but we will be going into ELA coming from Wisconsin Forward, the math score coming from Wisconsin Forward. We'll dig into ACT, and we'll also take a look at our ACT Aspire. So not only are the state assessments required, but they also give us a nice look into how we're doing in terms of preparing our students to be college and career ready. We also use them in our continuous improvement planning, both to show us where we need to focus more and focus some improvement efforts, but also point out some areas that we can celebrate the good work that we're already doing. So when we break down the state assessment system, we're looking at the Wisconsin Forward exam. So we're looking at grades 3 through 8 in English language arts and mathematics. Then in grades 4, 8, and 10, they also take a social studies exam. And then in grades 4 and 8, we have science. Then we have the dynamic learning maps, or DLM. This is a very small percentage of our students, and this is determined by an IEP team if students are going to take the DLM instead of either Wisconsin Forward or the ACT suite. When we get into ACT, we have the Aspire, which is in grades 9 and 10, and then we have the ACT plus writing, which is in grade 11. When we take a look at how we did for English language arts on our Ford exam, this is our 3rd through 8th graders. The exam was a little bit different this year. They did pull off the writing portion, but you'll notice that despite the fact that we dropped 6.5 percentage points, we still outperformed all of the peer districts and very much was scored significantly higher than the state and the average of the peer districts, with 46.7% of our students achieving proficient and advanced in ELA. Now, throughout the pandemic, the curriculum experts were anticipating that the math would be the most dramatically impacted of the content areas, and that was certainly the case in Holmen. You'll see that we did slip below the average of the peer districts, but we did remain above the state average with 36.7% achieving proficient and advanced in our grades 3 through 8. Our drop in science was similar to the one experienced throughout the state. We did continue to outperform both the state and average of our peer districts, with 57.3% of our students achieving proficient and advanced. And there was some decline in performance in social studies, but it does seem to be the least impacted during this time period, with us continuing to outperform the state and the average of our peer districts with 52.4% achieving a proficient and advanced. And again, that was just grades 4, 8, and 10. When we get into Aspire, we're looking at 9th and 10th grade students. We have English, reading, and writing. Those 3 components make up our ELA score, and then we also have math and science, and we'll be digging into each of those. For our 9th and 10th graders in ELA, we did outperform the state average, but we did fall below the average of the peer district by 3/100ths of a percentage point, with 39.4% testing proficient and advanced. And then in math, our 9th and 10th graders also dipped below the average of our peer districts, but we did outperform the state with 32.8% testing proficient and advanced. Our drop in science, again, was similar to what was happened statewide. We did continue again to outperform both the state and the average of our peer districts with 53.7. Nope, this is the wrong one. Science on ACT, sorry. On this one, again, we slid a little bit, but again, did continue to outperform both the state and the peer districts with 38.7% performing proficient and advanced in science on the ACT Aspire. Now getting into the ACT. Sorry about that. ACT has the same components. Again, English, reading, writing will be combined to make up an ELA score, and then we'll have our math and science sections. In ELA, our 11th graders' proficiency rate fell to 32.6% proficient and advanced, which is just under both the state and the average of our peer districts. And then in math, our 11th graders dropped to 23.3% proficiency rate, which is both below both the state and the peer district averages. Our science score also fell, but we did continue to outperform both the state and the peer district averages, with 30.9% of our students performing proficient and advanced. And then all of those scores come together in ACT to make up our composite score. And so that gave us a composite average of 19.1, which is the same as the state and is 0.02 of a percentage point below the average of our peer districts. So what does the data tell us? The pandemic has definitely been difficult, not just in terms of health and safety, but academically as well. We do have some things to celebrate, like our performance in ELA in grades 3 through 8, but there are so many variables this past year that makes it really hard to draw any really specific conclusions just from the statewide data. For example, as I mentioned, the writing portion was pulled off of the Ford exam, so how that impacted our scores we don't quite know. We also had, while Holmen's test participation rate dipped somewhat, it was still significantly higher than some of the districts across the state, where we had some district averages where they dropped over 12% in terms of test participation, which obviously would have an impact on scores too. Then we also had variables such as how many days we were in session, the fact that ACT was no longer required in college applications. I mean, there were so many variables last year that it makes it really hard to pinpoint any specific thing. But what we do know is that what we were able to pull from the statewide data and confirm with our internal data is that our math has taken a significant hit in terms of academic achievement, as well as high school level ELA. We also know that our underserved populations, such as students with IEPs and our English language learners, were more significantly impacted than their non-identified peers as well. But moving forward, what we plan to do is continue to provide our students with the highest quality of instructional practices and education that we have here in Holmen. We are continuing to monitor our internal data and make adjustments accordingly, instructionally, to really move with our students as they need us to. And we are accessing all of our instructional supports, including accessing our instructional coaches and really tapping into the strengths of our collaborative teams. It's going to take us some time, but we are a strong district with lots of supports, and we have the right people in place to get not only back to where we were pre-pandemic, but I think I'm confident we can do even better for our kids than we did going into this. So I am optimistic that the best is yet to come. Any questions?
Any specific questions, Brian?
I do have a question, Kim, in terms of for each of the assessments in each of the areas, do we as a district have a goal that we're trying to achieve with those students who achieve proficient or advanced?
We're always trying for better than we had before. When we look at overall like district assessments and things like that, we tend to shoot for 80% as a goal. With some of our state assessments, we're quite a bit further away from that, so that's something we're still aspiring to work towards.
So is that in comparison to, because some of them were saying like 35, and then we're really
Right, and-
striving for 80?
At least, yeah. Actually, we're striving for 100%, but, in steps.
Is that the same then for the composite ACT score? Like, what's our goal there to try to make sure that our students are prepared?
It depends on each subject area has a different proficiency level. Our goal previously had been about a 22.
Okay.
Other questions?
So it was really obvious when the pandemic hit in the 2021 and how that affected
Yeah.
our test scores. However, for many of the graphs that you showed, it appeared like the years 18, 19, especially, maybe not the ACT, but the ones prior to that, on most of them, it was already taking a downward trend. So do we have any idea what the contributing factor to some of that was? Because that was before the pandemic.
That's something that we're digging into. Actually, we are in the middle of an ELA self-study. So we're digging into where have we been, where are maybe some gaps in terms of our instructional materials and things like that we can really work to improve. Math will be in that same boat next year. So we're always working to figure out where it is that we need to focus and do a little bit better. We know that those are two that we really need to focus on.
And so what you shared is really the big picture, the overhead picture. For individual students, however, that may have shown a big decline or are not proficient, there are individual interventions still happening for all of those students.
There are. So we're doing a lot for differentiation and universal instruction to address the span of students that are presenting every day in every class, not just waiting until they get an intervention. So addressing more specifically the needs in universal instruction, and then also having a series of supports in place for kids who need more, even beyond that original differentiation.
And we measure their success or their accomplishments throughout the year. It's not just a one-time.
Absolutely. So we have a series of district assessments, and then we also have progress monitoring points throughout the year too for kids who we need to keep a closer eye on as well, who are in those interventions.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Any
you're
other
welcome.
questions? Okay. And moving on, Julie will share some information about staffing. What Kim presented is just for our information. Staffing is on tonight's agenda.
So this evening, I'm recommending an addition of a 1.0 administrative assistant at the TMT, our Transportation Maintenance and Training Center. For those of you that don't know, that building houses our buildings and grounds and our transportation. There's currently a one full-time administrative assistant at the TMT, primarily supporting transportation. Roles in transportation are increasingly difficult with the national shortage of bus drivers. And as we transition, as I stated in the issue paper, we are looking at transitioning our custodial model to a centralized model, which is very common in school districts. Currently, we have a decentralized model, which means each building principal oversees and supervises custodian and the custodians in their building, and then purchasing goes through the school office. So we are looking at centralizing that beginning July 1st. So that would bring 6 buildings into the evaluation, supervision, and purchasing into one department in buildings and grounds, which is a change. But we do think that there'll be gained, there's just increased oversight, schedule flexibility, especially like summer cleaning. We can sort of deploy to the building that isn't hosting summer school and get that building done. We still really want our custodians to have building ownership and pride, but we need some flexibility with shortage of subs and just greater ability to deploy them where we are needed at the time. In addition, we can gain some supply purchasing efficiencies by choosing maybe more similar products. So right now, often things are purchased individually by building. So when a sub goes from building to building, the chemicals could be different, the equipment could be different. It just really helps for efficiency of both their work on the job and then the purchasing economy of scale for greater efficiency within the custodial supply budget. So as you know, John Daly and Beth Hobbs are both retiring in December. That is 75 years of collective experience retiring, and it's fantastic. But with that, we have a new director of transportation, a new director of buildings and grounds, and a pretty new assistant director of transportation that started at the end of August. And so we really need some administrative support over there as we move into transitioning these new employees into their roles, and then also that change of centralizing custodial services next July 1st. So this evening I'm proposing the addition of a 1.0 to support that building and those programs. The job descriptions would mirror each other, and we will identify one will be specifically buildings and grounds and cross-trained in transportation and vice versa, so that any given point in time they could sub for each other when necessary. Right now we do not have anyone that can sub over there if there's even use of leave, vacation, they're year-round employees, or sick leave, things like that. So we've been triaging this year with actually admin assistants from this building and sending them over, so they've been learning some skills. All right, Sarah? And that's just a short-term fix, so we really need to support those two departments over there. The estimated cost for this is anywhere between $48,000 and $65,000, depending on benefit election. It would be prorated, obviously, for this year, and then going forward with that total estimated annual amount. And like Cheryl said, it is on the consent agenda for this evening. Any questions?
Any questions? No.
All right.
Then the next item is the RFP for the sale of district property.
So So the district intends to solicit proposals for the sale of the Oak Grove School property located on Bryce Prairie at W7908 County Trunk Highway Z in Onalaska. The tax parcels included, there's two. Tax parcel numbers 10-14760 and 10-15090. The property does contain about 5.1 acres as well as the Oak Grove School building. The building is approximately 20,720 square feet. It was originally erected in 1926 with additions dating 1957, 1978, and 1993. Previous uses of the building include elementary, early childhood, family learning center, and high school alternative education. In 2021, we were fortunate to be able to move our alternative education programming, now called ACE Academy, into the new Dave and Barb Scogan Boys and Girls Club in Holmen. That was a wonderful opportunity, and Jill participated heavily in designing that space for those students and getting them more centrally located within the school district. I think it's working well for them. The Oak Grove School no longer houses any student programming. And then one of the concerns we were worried about is storage, because it's become sort of a storage facility for things that aren't wanted in other school buildings. And so alternative storage locations have been identified for supplies and equipment previously stored at Oak Grove. So we've been busy the last 2 months moving some things out of Oak Grove and making space in other schools for those things that we're going to retain. So included in your materials this evening is a copy of the RFP for the sale of Oak Grove. It is our intention, upon approval, to issue this tomorrow, public notice on our website, and then it'll be published in the La Crosse Tribune yet this week, and it's about a 30-day window for RFPs. So for proposals, excuse me. Any questions?
Any questions? Will we have to have a special meeting then to actually approve the sale?
Yep, so the proposals are due December 9th, and then just in time to get to your board agenda for a special meeting. We discussed piggybacking the December 13th Monday meeting with a special meeting to take action on the recommendation of the proposal. Following that, that would just be accepting the bid, and then we'll have to draft an actual purchase agreement with our attorney and the buyer, and then look at any contingencies that may be part of that before we actually sign away, I guess. So there's steps to be taken after December 9th, but it would come back to you as a full board on December 13th in a special meeting.
And that would be another public special meeting, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions? All right, and so that is the bid RFP as it's presented is what is on the agenda for this evening under consent. So I would then move on to consent agenda items. We have 5 this evening, and unless you want to have any of them pulled out separately and considered, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Then moving on to board reports and discussion, I'll call on board members in the order of the roll call and ask that you present any comments or committee reports you may have. Chris Lau.
A few of us attended the Region 6 WASB meeting, I think on the 28th that was, right? A couple weeks ago. It was a good discussion on what makes a good board. They had a really dynamic speaker, someone local to the area, Fran Finko, who was the administrator in Onalaska for a while.
Fran Finkel?
Yep, gave a presentation, and then I forget the president of the WASB. He was there and presented as well. And then we had some good discussion on some pending legislation and some trends that we're seeing across the state. But it was a good chance for us to meet with some other members from local districts, and it was a real interesting session. So that's that. And then the Eat the Street that was a great event. Thanks to the district administration staff. I know a lot of you guys volunteered there when we came, so that was appreciated.
Thank you. Rebecca?
Building and Grounds met tonight. I believe they're sending a policy to the Finance Committee, but I can't remember which one. so I apologize for that. And then we reviewed some other policies, and that's all I have.
Okay, Brian Wopat.
I'd like to congratulate the volleyball team on a great season. Very proud of you for making it to state. Also, I started to hear a theme tonight with, first of all, with Christy Tweed and her presentation about reaching out to the group on Facebook if we need help. And then the Eat the Street presentation, if you all noticed, there was a little bit of a plug for help needed in the district. So I'm going to also reach out to that Facebook group to say, hey, if any of you want to sub or get your CDL license, or if you like cooking, or just filling in the office, or stopping by and volunteering in a classroom and helping out a teacher. We're really short with staff this year, and any help is greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Brian. Emily Zach.
I also want to recognize the volleyball team on a great season, and we also had a cross-country runner, Cameron Lemire, place, I think, in the 40s. I can't remember exactly what number, but I know it was in the 40s. So that's really awesome. The ACT scores were pretty rough, but I remember last year kind of guessing it was going to be that way just because I know I took it last year, and going into it I did not feel very confident. I know a lot of my peers didn't either. So that was that. And then I wasn't able to attend the volleyball game, but I did watch the live stream of it. And then I saw a bunch of pictures of our huge student section, and I was actually just like scrolling through social media, and I saw a bunch of like ads of pictures of our student section of how like so many people showed up. I'm like, wow. And then I was like, nobody's wearing a mask. That's crazy. Like if you were just a normal person scrolling through, you'd be like, oh, Holmen doesn't have a mask mandate at their school, but they do. And so that was just something that I observed, is because it was optional there, and I don't know if I saw anyone in the picture actually wearing any. So that was just a observation, I guess, but that's all pretty much. And happy term 2 starting today.
Okay, Jennifer Deek.
Yeah, I attended the Region 6 WASB virtual meetings and enjoyed learning more about running efficient school board meetings, and I guess just more about the school boards in general. I also want to say that I'm proud of the volleyball team for making it to state, and I think all of you should be very proud of how well you did and how far you've got. And I also want to say thank you to all the district school psychologists. We appreciate everything you do for the students, and happy National School Psychologist Week.
Okay, thank you. Gary Dunlap.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate the cross-country team and the girls volleyball team. I watched them, and they ran into a real tall team the last game. It kind of surprised them, I think. They're really big girls. Winter sports are in view and coming up fast. And other than that, if you have to passionately follow your heart, don't let it pull you too far away from wisdom and the truth.
Thank you, Gary. Anita Jagosinski.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the school psychologists and wish them a happy School Psychologist Week. And although he's not in this district, my son-in-law is also a school psychologist in O'Connell Falls, so Derek Johnson, plug for him. I attended the WASB Regional Fall Meeting with Brian and Chris a couple weeks ago, and that Chris reported on. Also, we had our first Personnel and Governance Committee meeting on October 20th, and we set up our schedule and our meeting dates for the year, looked at our committee purpose and the membership of our committee, and then we looked at policy considerations. We looked at emergency nursing services, which seemed mostly just language cleanup, and student rep on the board, just adding to verify the terms of service and orientation requirements to familiarize a student with the job. And then we had updates on the sub shortage. We talked about different ways that we could help fill the sub shortage even internally. We discussed, we mentioned bringing up paying the subs in different ways, or just assigning internal subs. We also discussed COVID leave Last year, staff received 10 days to use toward COVID leave. This year, that's not an option, and we talked about different things we could do in that regard. And then we talked about workforce study, the workshop that we had in August, and then the information that the different employee groups presented to us and how we could use that information. And our next meeting will be on November 17th.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I am the last person. I think I caught everyone. Yes. So I just have a couple comments. I just wanted to clarify a couple things. Data related to school, to our staff and compensation, just so everyone knows, all that data is public record. So if information was shared, I don't necessarily know that I would term it as leaked data, but all of that information is public data. And regarding the recordings, to clarify, I know there were 2 different recordings. So the budget hearing and annual meeting was one, and there was a break in that. And then also during the regular board meeting, when it got to the board comments to this section of the agenda, there was a break in that also. So there's actually 4 things out there. 4 different meetings or recordings related to that meeting. As a school district, we provide the live stream as a benefit or a service to our district. We're not required to do that. We're not required to even tape. I remember the good old days when you used to use cassette recordings and tape it. Those are primarily done for the use of minutes. The minutes are what are the official records of our meetings. And so we knew when we moved the meeting from this building to the other building that we hadn't live streamed or done something like that yet, or very often in that auditorium. And with the new technology, we've found some weaknesses in it, but nothing was done purposefully. As someone mentioned, it was really just a testing of the system. So I just wanted to note that it happened in a couple different places. Comments about volleyball, it was fun. I got to go, and it was fun atmosphere. It was awesome in there, in that auditorium, and the student section was great, and then you had the adult section, and then the band, of course, as Dr. Mueller had shared. It was an awesome thing, but also recognizing that Cameron Lemire also did represent us at state and cross country, and some of the pictures I've seen of that were awesome too. And I would acknowledge Onalaska. They were the state champions in cross country, so recognizing our neighboring schools for the success that they had. Also noted some sad news that Doris Jick, who was a art teacher in our district for 40 years, passed away. And just condolences to her family. I know she was beloved by the students who had her, and just saw that yesterday, I think, that she had passed away. And then just a note on the American Education Week. It truly is a celebration. Serving on the school board is an honor, and it is an honor to serve those who are trying to do the best that they possibly can in the classroom. We've heard about the needs for transportation, and those bus drivers, I see them all the time, and I know they're trying to do the best they can in transporting the people in the offices, the people that are keeping our schools clean and making them a positive place for our students to come. We are blessed to have the people that we do and the resources that we do in this community, and so hats off to our educators and to all of our staff as we celebrate National Education Week. So that would be all the comments that I would have. I would just note that the next meeting is on the 22nd. December 6th, we have a workshop, and then another board meeting on the 13th. We're trying to get all of the business we need to in December, so that we just have that one meeting in December. Otherwise, I think it would be pretty close to my birthday again. Sometimes December 27th is when they look at meetings, but we tend to just have one meeting in December. And then, of course, January 10th, the State Education Convention. For those who had a chance to go to the regional, the state convention is an awesome thing. It is in Milwaukee. But it is another opportunity for fellowship and networking with other school districts. And you learn, especially, I remember in my early years on the board, you learn so much, and you can see how other districts operate. And a lot of times I go away with a great deal of pride, because we do operate as highly performing school boards would operate. And you'll see that in some of the presentations that you receive when they say, this is the model you should be following. It's what we're doing. And so that's a real positive thing. But it also gives you creative ideas for maybe ways to approach other things. As I said, the fellowship, the opportunity to see that we're not alone in experiencing what we're experiencing, and other boards are having those same things occur. It just helps us to understand, and maybe they took a different approach to something. So many benefits to doing that. If you can take off a couple days and attend that would be awesome. I would note that under policies, that reading instruction, high school graduation, student records, early admission to school, student privacy rights, that's all by the Student Achievement and Learning Committee that I'm chairing. They're all being considered and looked at. School board elections, board member qualifications, filling board vacancies, and attorney selection are all under the Personnel and Governance Committees. Again, I share that with you if you have any questions about whether or not it's just an annual housekeeping review of that policy, or whether there's something more subsequent that is being looked at. If you want to reach out to those committees and get some information, certainly feel free to do that. And then I would just note that we have an election coming up under school board election notice that will be taking place in April. And starting on December 1st, nomination papers or board candidate papers can be taken out. And Anita and Rebecca are the two incumbents who would be up for election. So the last item on the agenda is closed session. Anita Jagosinski, if you would read the resolution for closed session.
Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby moves to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, in this case, base wage negotiations.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Chris, okay, motion's been made and seconded, and Anita, I think you have to
Yep.
do the roll call?
Yes. Chris Lau?
Yes.
Rebecca Reber?
Yes.
Brian Wopat?
Yes.
Jennifer Deek? Yes. Gary Dunlap? Cheryl Hancock?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
So the motion passes. We will convene in closed session in about 2 or 3 minutes, as soon as we can clear the room.
What's going on?
Clear the room.
Chris
Yes.
Stacy today?
No, Sarah
Was there
Stacy.
something happened? Oh, who was Chris?